everyone. We're back with Ken Dombrowski, executive life coach and master hypnotist. And today I want to talk about pride and embarrassment. Those are pretty low vibrational frequencies that everyone's going to run into from time to time, and just kind of what effect they have.
Well, that really is a great topic. Because I guess a lot of people might not understand this, but pride and embarrassment are two sides of the same coin, so to speak. Embarrassment is going to be something that an individual considers to be, something they would not be able to survive if it happened, if this happened, socially speaking. So pride puts up the defense against embarrassment. So we're going to have this constant pride trying to hold that defensiveness to keep embarrassment at bay. But when embarrassment creeps in, it's devastating. People get really sad and angry and hurt and upset. A whole cascade of negative emotions can come from it. But the thing to also add into it is lying. And it gives us a good reason why so many people lie. And we're going to lie a lot more when we're younger, because when we're younger, we just don't know. We don't have enough experience. Haven't developed much intuition and wisdom. So that uncertainty or that insecurity makes people lie, because I'd rather you think this of me than this other thing that might be true, because pride doesn't know if it's going to be something that's going to be acceptable or not. So I'd rather say something else, because that detaches me from it now, and I can't suffer too much embarrassment because of it.
And it's so funny because, at the end of the day, this is all fully made up in our own heads, because, the things that people find detrimentally embarrassing is like falling in public or, just like random things that aren't a big deal. And if someone else were to do them in front of me, I'm like, oh, let me help you up, and like maybe giggle for a second. But that someone holds on to that for the rest of their lives. And, like you're the person witnessing it, and you're like, that's no big deal. Or, the people that never get out of the high school mentality of, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I'm going to lie, like you're saying. And they become pathological liars or whatever. There's a couple terms for long-term liars. But they become just this person that's incapable of not lying. And everybody knows they're lying. When you're an adult, you can clock bullshit. You know what I mean? When someone is just can't stop lying, and it's one after the other. And they are doing it because they feel better about themselves, because their pride is so hurt that they have to continue to lie, and they don't realize it's making them so much more unlikable. So to me, it's actually crazy the way that these emotions actually turn into making you just a way worse person, because we're trying to lie to protect ourselves, and we're just making everyone not want to be around us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You think about, children are going to lie because they think they're going to get in trouble.
Right.
Teenagers are going to lie because they don't think that whatever they're experiencing in their life is good enough to, for everybody else, because that comparison that's happening. People in their 20s are going to lie because of things that they're doing, but they just don't want people to know about, because they might be, shady, dirty, down low, whatever stuff. People in their 30s are going to lie because they're trying to make themselves more mature, and they have to lie. They're going to lie about it a little bit, accomplishments and things like that, to help just keep that facade up. 40s people are going to lie because they're trying to just kind of maintain where they've been, and they don't want anybody to know that they have any kind of flaws. But once you start getting into your 50s, you start lying a lot less. 60s, again, just crashes. You would have a hard time finding someone in their, say, 70s or 80s who's going to be much of a liar. Now, anybody can say something that's untrue. We got to remember, we have to define this. A lie is an intentional untruth. Someone saying they know is wrong, but they're saying it anyway. So you can say anything that's not true but still believe it to be true. That's not a lie. But like as an example, I can kind of alert here. An 80-year-old person doesn't have this incredible amount of pride and embarrassment going on. They just don't. An 80-year-old person just shit themselves yesterday. They had to wipe up the whole mess and clean up and mop up, and that was embarrassing. Even if no one was around to witness it, it just humbled you so much that, what am I going to lie about? There's pride and embarrassment don't mean shit to me anymore when you're in that kind of a place. So we go through this evolution of lying to protect ourselves, to help pride protect ourselves from embarrassment, because embarrassment is the most devastating thing to pride.
I kind of like how you pointed out like childhood to teens, 20s to 30s, like the reason for lying, because I think that's so true because, you know, I'm 26 and, you know, when you're a kid, you have this idea of what you're supposed to be in your 20s and 30s based on what adults are kind of serving you due to their own pride. And it's so funny for me to be in this position and be like, I still don't really ever think I'm going to feel like an adult. Like, yeah, I have tons of responsibilities. I have a house to take care of. I have a dog to take care of. I have to show up to work every single day, and I have things that just need to get done. But this like illusion that you just randomly start to feel like an adult and you're gonna like American dream white picket fence it, I feel like that's just, the older you get, you kind of realize that's bullshit. And that's another reason that there's no need to lie, is instead of trying to like chase what everyone thinks they're looking for, you realize that you're just kind of living anyway. So I think it depends on how you take that, because like I'm secure enough to know that at 26 I'm doing just fine, but it's nowhere near what I thought 26 would feel like watching adults when I was a kid, because they make everything seem so much more put together. So I think that's part of it, is like other people's pride and your perspective at different times can kind of push you further into pride and embarrassment or farther away from it, or like caring about it enough to lie.
That was a whole lot. That was really great stuff there. It gave. Thank you for that. Kind of talk us through where you're at in your 20s and your observation there, because that's really it's salient points. It all works. Every bit of that comes together as to how we conduct our behavior, and we don't understand. I've known countless people who say, "Yeah, I know I lie a lot, and I just don't know why." Mm-hmm. Well, it's because there's something in your subconscious that has you, compels you to lie because of certain reasons, and those reasons are going to be rooted in your identity, going to be rooted in who you are. So even think about your subconscious is one, we say this all the time in these videos and in our office, your subconscious is all about one thing, survival. Mm-hmm. Well, we have different types of survival. You have your physical survival, which we don't really need that one a whole lot anymore. Turn back the calendar just a couple of 100 years ago. Like in the old frontier days, death was around you all day long. You could get bit by a rattlesnake and die. You could get eaten by a bear or a mountain lion. Get shot. Get all kinds of stuff.
Weather could take you out.
Basic infection could kill you easily. So we don't really need a whole lot of that, but it's still there. The mechanism is still there for survival. But so it really kind of morphed more into social survival. Mm-hmm. See, social survival is still key. It's still very important to survival. Because if you go, again, let's turn back the calendar a few hundred years or even 1,000 years ago. If someone had committed a horrific crime in their village or their community, and they would be might be ostracized out of it, excommunicated. You have to leave, because the villagers knew that to have that person cast out of the village, that would be probably the worst fate for that person, because it takes a village. You need that other people around to help with all the things that you need, food, water, warmth, shelter, all that kind of stuff. And you get pushed out of that, then they know you're going to die of what we call consumption, mm-hmm. which can be one of the worst ways to die. It's worse than actually just, putting a bullet in you, because that's instant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I personally think this makes total sense, like when you actually think about it in this regard, you know what I mean? Because I think that's what's usually missing, is we're so busy like living life or lying about life or whatever it is, that you don't stop to think about what those actual base feelings are. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. What is the base feeling that causes you to do such a thing? Pride and embarrassment. And it may feel like without explanation, it may feel like it's not related or it's not the point or whatever it is, but it really is. It makes a lot of sense when you have a discussion about it. But I would have never even thought, like, even when you said this before we even made the video, he's like, I want to talk about pride and embarrassment. And I'm like, for what? And he's like, for lying. Because I can still work in his office every single day and understand these concepts, but you don't really know what you understand until you talk about it. And I feel like that's so important, not only for us, but for the people that come to our office, is a reminder that you can understand XYZ all day long, but you still need to converse about XYZ to make things happen, to make things change, to truly understand how you feel. We can't just live in our head 24/7 and expect different results or to be great.
Yep. Wow. The way you characterize stuff is always so fascinating for me because it's in this always in alignment, but from a different perspective, which I really like. So how do we stop lying? Well, we have to go down to the core of our identity and start making some changes. Cannot just simply will yourself into not lying. How do we make pride not be so destructive? You got to think about this. I say this in my office all the time. Pride was one of the original 7 deadly sins of the Old Testament of the Bible. So that means that 2,000 years ago, before science, before mental health services, before plumbing, before electricity, before houses, long ago, people were living extremely uncivilized comparatively, but they still were able to identify that pride was destructive to the human condition. So it still is true today, but it's in a different form. Different form, more so because it's not so much destructive physically as it is emotionally, which becomes more destructive, which brings me to my next point. And this is a hard one, but it's called suicide. This is terrible stuff. Obviously, we deal with this in our office a lot. We get a lot of folks who come in who are suicidal, and they've attempted suicide, or they've had thoughts and talking about it, whatever it might be. We have to help them through this, and the only way to help them through this is to get to the bedrock of what's going on. And a lot of times, it's going to be pride and embarrassment related. So we see this. We have these statistics, and it's kind of shocking. A lot of people don't realize this, even though. And I'm not trying to trivialize any of this, so please bear with me. Even though teenagers attempt suicide a lot, they're not usually very successful. There's a very low success rate, fortunately. So they can still, it's a good warning signal that this child has something going wrong and we need to address it. Great. That gives them the help that they need. Then we have, beyond that, as an adults, women attempt suicide way more often than men do. However, men commit suicide way, way more than women do. So what are we thinking here? Well, men in that situation, what we find over and over again is that their life became so untenable that they were not able to get back on top of where they need to be. They just got beat down so much by life. Maybe they lost their job or their business or their finances are screwed up and their relationships are suffering and they're having health problems because of it. And all this, they find there's just only one way out. There's only one answer now. And then once they make that decision, see, that's all pride put them there. Embarrassment. Keep beating that pride down. So now the last proud thing I can do is end it all. So we have to think about how that can really play long term on someone. And someone who commits suicide, they didn't just get a bad news yesterday and they commit suicide. It's been stacking over years. So that's going to be another place where we got to be aware, cognizant of what pride, embarrassment, and lying, because now you're going to be lying about your life as a cover-up.
I think that's interesting, too, because I think it's more common for men to kind of have more of a sense of pride. It's kind of like built into the male ego and hormones and whatever else. So, like, that's why more of the time it's shocking to find out a man did commit suicide than a woman has attempted, because a woman's usually going to talk about her pain and her trauma and her emotional dysregulation or whatever it may be. But men, when they commit suicide, you're like, what the hell happened? Because his pride and embarrassment kept him from talking about it, kept him from confronting it, kept him from asking for help. So that's where the difference comes in too. One group feels comfortable asking for help and talking about it, and another group doesn't. That's, a societal issue, as well as, like I said, genetic, hormonal, male versus female kind of dynamic issue. But it does make a total amount of sense to me, because exactly what you're saying leans into men having more pride.
That was and again, one more time, you characterize it in a better way than what I was even stumbling around with. So great, thank you for that contribution.
Yeah, I mean, this is another. I don't think there's a single topic that we can talk about that wouldn't just go on all day, and that's literally why we have like I said, multiple sessions. It's just kind of part of the process is you need to dissect and dissect because there really is never a stopping point. There's always more that you can learn. And I think pride and embarrassment is such an interesting topic for not only me, but probably other people, definitely for you as well. So thank you for all that information on that topic.
My pleasure.
If you guys would like to discuss pride and embarrassment with us, please visit our website or give us a call today. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.